guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing a video that I've been wanting to make for a while now, my 2019 bullet journal flip through. You're probably wondering why this is a 2019 flip through and not 2020. I actually didn't bullet journal this year, and I'm kind of glad that I chose not to. With all of the craziness of the year, I didn't think that I would have found the inspiration necessary to create spreads that I really loved, but after taking a break this year, I'm even more excited to get back into it for 2021, so stay tuned for my 2021 setup. I hope you enjoy this video, and maybe you'll even find some inspiration for your own journal. I don't think I'll stop at every single page, but I'll point out some of my favorite spreads and things that I like or disliked about my journal. The first few pages here are blank, including some of the index pages that were printed into the journal. I didn't have much use for the index, so I decided to transform a few of those pages into a timetable. 2019 was the final year of my undergraduate degree. I studied life sciences with a minor in forensic psychology. This first spread was very useful, especially since I worked while in school. It was an easy way for me to see my schedule at a glance and find time for things like studying and leisure activities in between. The next page is my grid spacing cheat sheet. I believe I got this idea from fellow Canadian Amanda Rach Lee. This is super useful for planning out weekly spreads. As you can see, I divided the page into different size sections, both vertically and horizontally, mapping out how many grid spaces were required to divide the page into quarters, thirds, and halves was super useful for setting up my weekly spreads. I also numbered the grid spaces both horizontally and vertically. The next page here is my yearly spread. I really like the look of this one. It's nice and simple and somewhere that I can see the entire year at a glance. I also wrote out all the days of the year, nice and small, with my .38 Muji pen. This is something that most people complain about, but I find it oddly satisfying and calming. I actually enjoy writing the numbers out by hand. It's one of my favorite parts of bullet journaling. The next few pages here are my future log, which I've spread out over 4 pages. I used this pretty full brush lettering for the months, and again included mini calendars to highlight important dates. I also planned out my monthly theme ideas here and jotted down exams and appointments. Next is my 2019 goals spread. I included a ton of different goals here, as well as my word of the year, venture. This word had a double meaning for me, as I love to travel, but also wanted to step out of my comfort zone and venture into the unknown in my daily life. I set personal goals like getting laser eye surgery and Invisalign, and also travel, art, fitness, finance, career, and by this time next year. At the end of the year, I looked back, checked off the goals that I achieved, and crossed out the ones I didn't. I visited Disney World in Florida, London, UK, and although I didn't start my YouTube channel in 2019, seeing this again pushed me to start uploading in 2020. Despite not having applied to med school in 2019, I'm happy to say that I checked this one off in 2020 as well, and I'm excited to see what the future holds. The next spread is for places that I went in 2019, another idea that I believe I got from Amanda Rach Lee. I included my destination, dates, and my favorite memories from the trips. For example, when I visited Disney, one of my favorite memories was finding a mini croissant in my boyfriend's shoe. How did it get there? We have no idea. On the right is my year in pixels spread. I think I saw this idea on Instagram and thought it would be cool to give it a try. As you can see, I didn't stick to it very well, and by about June, I resorted to writing the letters that corresponded to the colors, but never got around to filling them in. Next are my budget trackers, which I ended up not being too happy with. The concept was there, but I could have executed it a lot better. Here I included my total income and spending for each month and made a graph on the other side. I actually improved this spread in my 2020 planner and made it a monthly, so I'll try to include a picture of that here. The next spread is something that I found super useful. This was my grades tracker, and I used it to keep track of my coursework and gauge how I was doing on tests and assignments. I broke it down by subject and included my scores for all of the graded coursework for each class, as well as final exam information and my final grades. This helped me plan and use my time effectively, and I ended up getting straight A's. With that, we're on to the first monthly spread of the year. Here is my January setup. I tried to keep it simple and minimalistic. I brush lettered the days of the week across the top and used Tombow brush pens for the dates. I also included any appointments that I had scheduled for the month. This next spread is one that you'll see repeated over and over each month, my habit trackers and monthly budget spreads. I tracked good habits like exercise, studying, and healthy eating, and bad ones such as being late and eating fast food. In terms of my income and expenses, I found that writing in non-essential purchases in red helped me curb unnecessary spending. The first few weekly spreads aren't my favorite, but are still cool to look back on. It took me a while to get into a creative groove, but I love seeing the progression of my brush lettering and creativity over the months. Everything is color-coded, and I included an area to check off once I'd reviewed and summarized my notes from each of my lectures. Week 2 is pretty similar, and I tried a bit of a drop shadow. Week 3 is where the creative juices started to flow. I divided the days up into events like classes or work, and tasks like quizzes and assignments. I chose a cherry blossom theme for February and had a lot of fun with it. For this page, I drew a cherry blossom branch and wrote February 2019, and I actually meant to include a quote on the left-hand side about growth, but I never got around to it. This is my February calendar spread. Not sure how I feel about this one. I went for only vertical lines and decorated the blank space with some pictures of cherry blossom branches. This week is a bit more interesting. I went for a less conventional layout, including a mini calendar and a preview of the next week. This week, I didn't really use my bullet journal because I was on reading week, so it ended up being a bit neglected, just a bare bones spread without any cherry blossoms. This spread I've really enjoyed. I tried mixing it up with a different layout which freed up some space for a mini calendar, this and next week sections, and a weekly habit tracker which I didn't end up using because I already have the monthly ones. This spread was used to plan my trip to Disney World. I included different trip package options and things like the park hours during the time that we were planning to visit. I switched things up for the March calendar, making it a one-page spread instead of two, and included a plant theme page. Remember this for later, this was supposed to be the theme for March. Please excuse this hideous spread. It's my least favorite of the entire journal. I had an idea in mind, but the result was not at all what it was intended to be. The font wasn't my favorite and just seemed sort of off overall, but these little succulents are adorable. This is a much better spread, more cohesive. I included sections at the sides for events and a weekly to-do list. I also included this little plant doodle. This week, I started using stickers. I believe these ones are from the brand Happy Planner. I also did a little face mask doodle for some self-care. This is one of my favorite spreads, although I wish I had saved it for my trip to Disney. For April, I did a honeycomb theme. It was a happy and vibrant one, and I had a lot of fun with this theme. This week was inspired by a spread I saw on Instagram. There was so much packed into a single week that I had to give it a try. This week, I started getting ready for my trip to Disney. I found this cute packing list sticker and mirrored the same style for my task list on the opposite side. I used countdown stickers for my trip and found the cutest 3D airplanes as well. I loosely recreated my Polaroid spread for this week and included my favorite picture from each day of our Disney trip. I also found a cute adventure sticker and another airplane for our flight back home. This is my little awkward section. There were 3 days left in April that I didn't want to roll into May. I also didn't really use the journal for these 3 days, so it just ended up sort of being there. My Monarch theme for May was another one of my favorites and one that I had a lot of fun with. June was the month I graduated from university. I modeled this calendar spread after the one back in March with a similar calendar page. My actual graduation day was June 6th, so for that week I thought that this spread would be fitting, a bunch of graduation caps flying to commemorate such an awesome milestone. This was the week I got my wisdom teeth out, so I went with a smaller weekly spread and used the second page to brainstorm and track meal ideas. I couldn't chew for about a week, so I had to get creative with foods. This was my MCAT study tracker. Although I did study, I didn't get too much use out of this spread. I made better use of my time by actually going over the material rather than planning to go over it. This is another one of my favorite weekly spreads. I decided to try something new and did a Dutch door. At the end of July, we started planning a trip to London, so I made this spread to track my savings and brainstorm ideas for things to do on the trip. The theme for August was koi fish, and I came up with so many cool spread ideas for this one. I actually ended up miscalculating and didn't have enough space for the first few days of August, so I worked them into the budget tracker spread instead. I love sushi, so for my birth month spread, I decided to go with a sushi theme. Although I really enjoyed this one, it was around September that I started to slack with my bullet journal. I don't know if I was too busy or just not in the right headspace, and although some were incomplete or not filled in, a lot of these spreads still turned out great. I've heard before that it takes about 21 days to break a habit. This section in the bottom here was meant to be a tracker for breaking habits or cultivating good ones, but I never got around to using it. Here's a spread that fell victim to incompletion. The dates are super cute, but it would have looked a lot better had I finished the little sushi doodles. This is probably my favorite weekly spread from September. I love onigiri, but I can't seem to find anywhere that sells it in the GTA. Okay, so I'd probably say that I had the most fun creating my October spreads. I'm a bit of an anime nerd, a weeb if you will, and I was so pumped for season 4 of My Hero Academia that I made it into a theme for the month. And fun fact, I hand drew the plus ultra in the bottom right. I included a ton of pictures in these spreads as well, and can you guess when the season 4 premiere date was? I didn't actually intend to color the background of this spread yellow, but I set everything up and it just seemed like something was missing. I think the pop of color really ties everything together. For the next week, I chose a heroes theme. I totally couldn't decide on a picture of Aizawa, so I decided to use them all. The next weekly spread was supposed to be a villains theme, but because of how crazy that week was, I never got around to making it. So this is where I started really slacking with my spreads. A lot of them are either incomplete or missing elements like headers. For 2021, I'm going to really push myself to complete all of my spreads so that I have something really great to look back on. For this one, I intended to do some little acorn and leaf doodles to fill up the blank spaces. For the December calendar spread, I came full circle and did a bit of a spin on my January calendar, keeping it pretty minimalistic. The week before I left for London ended up being the last week that I completed in my bullet journal. That being said, I'd say I ended off on a good note. Looking back at my journal from 2019 has made me super excited to get back into it for 2021. I have a lot of ideas for next year, and I do plan to start making monthly bullet journal videos, so if you have any ideas or themes that you'd like to see, let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave me a like, subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see more videos like this in the future. Stay tuned for my 2021 bullet journal setup video coming soon, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.